Hi, I'm Greg from RV Haulers. It's time for an update for Dan in Mexico City. Dan, we've been spending the last while doing some upgrades to BRYANT for you, and it was time that we swung the camera around and showed you how things are progressing. Here's how BRYANT is looking. It is way too cold to do an update outside, so we are inside today. And I want to show you a couple of little things that we've been, just little tweaks and improvements. This is Joe's improvement. We're doing this as a standard to all of our trucks now. We're putting 2 air fittings onto each of our trucks. Right now these are in a temporary position. Brian's going to be getting a smart bed back here. So these lines are just temporarily sitting here. They're loose. But we've created 2 fittings. This one is for filling. You know, many times we're chasing air leaks on these trucks and, putting different devices on them and having to, exhaust the air and refill it. And this allows me to hook up our shop air and fill the tanks on the truck without having to idle it. I mean, this is kind of a selfish fitting. We use this for mostly our purposes, but what we think this will be great for is if you ever have to be towed in the future, there's a good point for the tow truck to be able to supply air and make sure that the emergency brakes are deactivated for the tow job. The other fitting that we're putting on here is a standard M-style fitting. That's really meant for having a kit like this. So coily hose, being able to do a little bit of dusting or fill tires in an emergency, needle inflation valve. I think with most of my trucks I'm going to supply something like this so that you've got a full set of connectors, M-style connectors again, that you can run some small tools. Now the air in these trucks is not meant to run air tools. It's little volume, but it's good for doing something really small. Now another thing we've been doing on Dan's truck is we've been prepping for the Manly Man 8-inch chrome exhaust. We're going to be leaving the exhaust visible on the back of the truck. You may have seen that in an earlier video, and we've been prepping things for that. So Joe has been calculating angles and making sure that when the exhaust flares up and out that it's going to be coming at the right angle. Also, if we ever lose air in the airbags in the sleeper and this lowers, we wanted to make sure that we would have clearance, because of course this is big stuff. As well on the frame, Joe, I'll swing around the other side. We'll go past Joe here. There's our fashion model Joe. He is sporting a oh, look at that. A slimming pair.
Tummy tuck.
Oh,
Tummy tuck coveralls.
That's really nice. Somebody has quite the budget for fancy coveralls. Wow. So you can see back here, Joe's been doing quite a bit of work getting all of the airlines plumbed. Airlines ran here to the ET hitch. Of course, everything is inside of some protective, we actually use airline, rubber airline, so that when these airlines pass through this little gap, nothing is ever going to rub. We'll go inside the cab here in a second, but Joe's hooked up the hitch camera. We'll maybe demonstrate that in a second. Hey Joe, why don't we go do that now? Do you want to show us what you've been working on? Well, I'll give a demo. You could be like a hand model.
Sure. Mechanic hand model.
Well, you have to tell us what you're doing.
Sorry, I'm new at this. So I've hooked it up to this switch, the second auxiliary switch. So even with the key off, you can activate it. Like so.
And that fits.
Nice trim.
Yeah, it fits nice flush in the dash. That's the reason I really like this cab cam, is the Voyager monitor doesn't fit flush in the dash. It would kind of be bumped out, it'd be surface mounted, and I think this just looks much more professional. But this camera and monitor system does integrate with the Voyager system, so if you have cameras on your trailer, we can connect to them. Now you've got another switch lit up there, Joe?
Yeah, this is for the lights out there on the ferry.
Flick it off and on. There we go. Sometimes we call those the chicken lights, but I think those look cool. The little chrome pieces we haven't put on here yet. They'll go on soon. What else did you put into the truck?
We have the brake controller.
The key's off right now, but there we go. Great. Why don't you demo what else you put in the truck? Jackalope. Let's go do that.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, so the reason we had to mount the jackalope on this side, and it wasn't that hard to do, it was a little tricky in some respects, but for the most part it wasn't hard to do, is because the APU has the condenser of the evaporator on the other side mounted in the jockey box.
Why don't you show us what's over on that side?
Sure, let's go have a look. So we're really tight for space on this side because of this unit. And this is the condenser over here. Or it actually might be the evaporator, sorry. And we're really limited for space.
Normally we would try to fit the jackalope on that back wall, but just you can imagine trying to get your arms in there to hook up wires. Would be a bit of a challenge. And of course, Joe with his manly man arms, they wouldn't fit in there.
Or if you had to do some kind of maintenance, if you had a wiring problem, it'd be hard to access.
Yeah, right.
Figure out what your problems are with your wiring. Okay, so what we're going to try to do is to mount these in here, something like this. And in order to do that, we're going to have to take these factory mountings that we have here and bring them out, because we want to show off some of the stack on this side. So we're going to have to get somebody to modify this. We'll take it to the welding shop and bring this out. Either we're going to change the angle of this, or we're going to bring this out with the channel iron here. We're not really sure how we're going to do that yet. And then we're going to run this stack right up to the top. And we're also going to put these cab extensions on. This will mount way up there, and it'll look really nice when it's done. So you'll have this coming out right to the stack. It'll be right here. It's going to look really nice. And there's also, after that piece, there's another piece that comes down like this.
Yeah, and that's just got some protective plastic on the front, so
Yeah,
it doesn't get scratched.
Yeah, that's right. Should be a nice clean look when it's done. Also on this unit, we had to change the fan. We noticed the fan was broken, so we went in there and we had to move the rad back to squeeze that in. That seems to be a common problem sometimes with these units. Over the years, for some reason, the fan gets broken. And we've changed the belts. And then in the process of changing the oil, I happened to notice that it held an awful lot of oil, more than I was expecting, because it has an upgraded oil pan that holds 60 liters of oil, which is quite uncommon. Greg, if you want to just take a shot of that oil pan, show them how it comes out at the bottom there. Extra capacity oil pan.
So that's just oil from the oil change that's sitting on the side, but that thing is quite a bit bigger than we're used to seeing on these D16s. So what's your next plan, Joe? What's next on Dan's truck from Mexico City?
Complete the exhaust, the cab extensions at the top, and then prep it for the smart card deck install.
All right. Well, you keep looking good.
I'll try.